Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, as we learn from St. Augustine, Doctor of the Church, while we read his book, Confessions. Welcome, Catholic pilgrims. It's good to have you with me today. We have a sad reading today. St. Augustine's good friend dies, and the story is quite interesting. Let's hear about it by opening to Book 4, Chapter 4, on page 75. During those years, when I first began to teach in Thagast, my native town, I had found a very dear friend. We were both the same age, both together in the heyday of youth, and both absorbed in the same interests. We had grown up together as boys, gone to school together, and played together. Yet ours was not the friendship which should be between true friends, either when we were boys or at this later time. For though they cling together, no friends are true friends unless you, my God, bind them fast to one another through the love which is sown in our hearts by the Holy Ghost, who is given to us. Yet there was sweetness in our friendship, mellowed by the interest we shared. As a boy, he had never held firmly or deeply to the true faith, and I had drawn him away from it to believe in the same superstitious, soul-destroying fallacies which brought my mother to tears over me. Now, as a man, he was my companion in error, and I was utterly lost without him. Yet in a moment, before we had reached the end of the first year of a friendship that was sweeter to me than all the joys of life as I lived it then, you took him from this world. For you are the God of vengeance as well as the fountain of mercy. You follow close behind the fugitive and recall us to yourself in ways we cannot understand. No man can count your praises, even though he is but one man and reckons only the blessings he has received in his own life. How can I understand what you did at that time, my God? How can I plumb the unfathomable depth of your judgment? My friend fell gravely ill of a fever. His senses were numbed as he lingered in the sweat of death, and when all hope of saving him was lost, he was baptized as he lay unconscious. I cared nothing for this, because I chose to believe that his soul would retain what it had learnt from me, no matter what was done to his body when it was deprived of sense. But no such thing happened. New life came into him, and he recovered. And as soon as I could talk to him, which was as soon as he could talk to me, for I never left his side since we were so dependent on each other, I tried to chaff him about his baptism, thinking that he too would make fun of it, since he had received it when he was quite incapable of thought or feeling. But by this time, he had been told of it. He looked at me in horror, as though I were an enemy, and in a strange newfound attitude of self-reliance, he warned me that if I wished to be his friend, I must never speak to him like that again. I was astonished and confused, but I did not tell him what I felt, hoping that when he was better and had recovered his strength, he would be in a condition to listen to what I had to say. But he was rescued from my folly and taken into your safekeeping for my later consolation. For a few days after this, while I was away from him, the fever returned, and he died. My heart grew somber with grief, and wherever I looked I saw only death. My own country became a torment, and my own home a grotesque abode of misery. All that we had done together was now a grim ordeal without him. My eyes searched everywhere for him, but he was not there to be seen. I hated all the places we had known together because he was not in them, and they could no longer whisper to me, "Here he comes," as they would have done had he been alive but absent for a while. I had become a puzzle to myself, asking my soul again and again, "Why are you downcast? Why do you distress me?" But my soul had no answer to give. If I said, "Wait for God's help," she did not obey. And in this she was right, because to her, the well-loved man whom she had lost was better and more real than the shadowy being in whom I would have her trust. Tears alone were sweet to me, for in my heart's desire they had taken the place of my friend. When Christ comes again, we will have the general judgment. If you die before Christ's second coming, you will go through the particular judgment, meaning It is particular to you. In that moment, you will either be judged to heaven, purgatory, which leads to heaven, or hell. At the second coming, if you are still alive on earth, you will go through the general judgment with all of humanity. The goats and the sheep will be separated, and in this judgment, we will come to understand so many things. The general judgment is a public judgment, and the full impact of everyone's lives and actions on others will be revealed. And we will come to understand why God took someone when they did. Thinking here today of St. Augustine's friend, we see he is heartbroken at his death. Initially, his friend is his companion in error, as St. Augustine says, but then his friend gets very sick, and someone baptizes him. St. Augustine thinks this is stupid, but when his friend wakes up, he's changed. Those baptismal graces are working. Remember, baptism is not the work that we do, but the work that God does in us. His friend even tells St. Augustine not to talk about those erroneous beliefs again. And Augustine is like, okay, sure. And then he hopes that when he's fully recovered, he can talk some sense into him. But he dies. Why does he die? He seemed to be getting better. Now, I don't know for sure, but maybe God was saving him. It is better to be with God in heaven, so maybe he called him home sooner rather than later because he was covered with baptism and there was no chance to lose those graces. I mean, maybe. It is so hard to lose a loved one, especially when we deem it is too soon for them to go. We often think that God owes us 90 years, but he doesn't. He doesn't owe us anything. We just need to recognize that each day is a gift and a day to draw closer to him. For some, he may call them sooner to save them from destruction. And if so, that is a very good thing. We will pause here for today, Catholic Pilgrims. Join me tomorrow, and until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.